Welcome to the Practice Blueprint. My name is Jordan Terry, and today I'll be speaking with Sean Keith of Keith Law Group. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I think it's best if we let you tell the audience a little bit about Keith Law Group, where you're located, what your practice looks like.
Keith Law Group is located in the beautiful state of Arkansas. We have several offices, but our primary office that we operate out of is in Rogers, Arkansas, up in the northwest corner. So in the southern tip of the Ozarks.
All right. And then what type of law do you practice specifically?
So we practice just injury law at this point. I've been practicing for 31 years, and other than bankruptcy and maybe workers' comp, Social Security disability, I've probably touched it at some point. I was a prosecutor when I first got out of law school. Started my own firm with a partner in 1995. Grew that from the two of us to 14 lawyers and 3 offices throughout Northwest Arkansas, and was with Drew, my original partner at the old firm. It was Keith Miller Butler for 25 years. And so at some point I transitioned from I've probably done 1,000. I've tried a murder. I've prosecuted a murder case. I've defended a murder case. I've handled probably over 1,000 divorces in my first 5 to 7 years of practice. Some point about 2020, I transitioned over to strictly injury work. Did medical malpractice for as long as I could take it. Medical malpractice or medical negligence cases are difficult. I applaud anybody that does it. You have to live in the right venue. You have to have the right, a lot of things have to be right for medical negligence. I was fortunate enough to win my very first med mal case. And my dad, who was on the bench for 26 years, when I called and told him, and I was ecstatic, and he was very happy, but he said, "Well, it's a blessing and a curse." I said, "What are you talking about, Pop? I just won. I was, blah, blah, blah." So I've been on the bench for 15 years, and I've never seen a plaintiff win a medical malpractice case. And now you're going to get every referral in the country. So that's kind of where I cut my teeth on injury. And then I went on into mass torts, and I've always done car wrecks. And now I do primarily car wrecks along with what we call our mass tort docket. No more med mal. I did that for about 10 years. And as typical, Dad was right.
10 years is plenty.
That was plenty.
So you started off as a prosecutor, and then I think this is a pretty standard trajectory for personal injury attorneys, but you switched to personal injury law. What prompted you to do that?
Well, I liked it. I mean, with the background of doing divorces and doing different cases, I mean, I had a handful of car wreck cases when I was doing everything, just trying to make a living. And I liked the ability to give my client a check at the end of the case, as opposed to asking the client for money at the beginning of a case. Just, if nothing else, the feeling of satisfaction and trying to balance the scales, so to speak, for what the client had gone through with a check at the end is still one of my very favorite parts of the injury practice. And so I liked the medicine. I was horrible at biology. I was a history major, but I liked the medicine to a certain extent. I liked the strategy, and I like giving, earning my money by giving people checks. So.
Sure. Makes sense. So being a prosecutor, I'm sure afforded you a lot of courtroom experience, trial experience. If you're a new attorney starting off and you're interested in jumping into the personal injury mass tort space, do you think it's necessary for new attorneys to, become prosecutors or at least get some trial experience under their belt before they jump into the world of PI?
I don't think you have to. I think the personal injury arena is the best practice of law. For me personally, I have partners who, or used to have partners who wanted nothing to do with it. I really, really enjoy it. And I don't think you have to. I think it's helpful. I think me being a divorce lawyer for 5 years and handling divorce cases and trials regarding, even though it was just in front of a judge, it was in front of a judge. You had to put on evidence, you had to cross examine witnesses. I think that was very helpful. So it doesn't have to be a prosecutor, you don't have to be in front of a jury. It sure is helpful. And being a young prosecutor is probably the easiest way to get that experience. And I would certainly suggest, if someone's interested in injury work or the plaintiff side, I think being a prosecutor, or also, if they work for the insurance defense for a couple of years, I think that's great too. Don't do it too long, you get stuck.
Yeah.
And really miserable at year 10. But yeah, I think that's another great way to do it. Some experience. You need to be in the courtroom, handle DWIs, do some criminal work. Just when you're young, you want to be out there in the mix. You want to be mixing it up, and that's the best way to learn how to, to get strategies and be curious. And that's one thing I would encourage anyone practicing law. Man, if you can keep your level of curiosity and want to learn, go to trial skills colleges, go to seminars. I've never been short of CLE because I still like going and learning and trying to learn. And now I'm to the age I'm relearning stuff I've forgotten that I learned. But anyway.
Okay. It's funny, you're the first person that I've ever talked to, first attorney that said they have no problem collecting their CLE credits. Most of the time, it seems like it can be a bit of a drag.
I think if you pick the right CLE, you can go to some cool places but I like the learning. I like listening to other lawyers and how they use their strategy. And on my desk behind me, I've probably got 4 books right there. On the other side, there's another book. There's just some great material out there, and you can really learn a lot. It's not, magical. It's more process based and doing your work.
Sure. So, prosecutor to attorney, or prosecuting attorney to med mal, divorce, and then PI attorney, and now attorney owner. One question I always like to ask attorney owners is, because they don't teach you this in law school, how to run a business, how do you balance the demands of being both an attorney and a business owner without compromising the quality of service and legal representation you offer to your PI clients, while also, running a successful business?
Yeah, I've been practicing since I think I started in September 2000 or 1993. So I'm entering my 32nd year. I've been an owner for 30 and a half of those. Now 30, getting ready to start 30. For a year and a half, I worked as a prosecutor and was in a small law firm that I worked for a guy in a small town. After that, I just started my own firm and grew it. And it is a business. I really enjoy the business part. A lot of attorneys, and you got to figure out who you are. A lot of attorneys want to be a lawyer, period. They want to practice law, and that's great. I wanted to be a business, and my partner of 25 years and I both were really interested in the business aspect of running a law firm. And so and as time has evolved, I like the business aspect just as much as the legal aspect. And that may be really strange to somebody who just got their degree and want to practice. It is fun to practice law. It's fun to cross-examine somebody. It's fun to win cases. It's fun to get patted on the back. It's awesome. I mean, they're truly awesome. On the other hand, I love getting processes in place and seeing people around me be efficient and able to do jobs. And we have a meeting every single Monday morning. And I do it. I put on the PowerPoint every Monday morning with my team. I don't have a huge team. I have 7 people. But we talk about the process. We go through the same things every week because I want to be efficient. Because if you're efficient, we all benefit financially and otherwise. And so I'm real big on the business end. I like the big business end. I like to try to figure out, well, should we do this or that? And what if we tried this or tried that? So the business part of it is a lot of fun. I enjoy the marketing part. I was looking at a report yesterday. How many cases have we closed this year compared to the year before? The year before, I'm constantly looking at what are we averaging on cases? Why? What direction are we headed? How many cases are we pulling in? How many cases are we closing? So all those metrics have been a recent thing for me because I changed firms after 25 years in 2000, right as COVID started, literally the Friday before they shut the bank I'm in down on Monday. We moved into our new offices, and so
Great timing.
just to do injury. Yeah, great, wonderful time. It did give us a great opportunity to learn our practice management software that we switched to. When you have 14 lawyers and 3 offices and every kind of practice from criminal law to tax, trust, wills, estates. I mean, we did divorce, you name it, my old firm. It's like a battleship, that old saying. It takes 3 hours or 3 days or 3 years to turn a battleship around. When I became small, man, I could turn quick. And that's, I think, critical in regards to running a injury business from a marketing standpoint and otherwise. I think it's an advantage, frankly.
Sure. And so were you at your old firm, the old practice, you weren't actively tracking all the KPIs and the attribution that you now track for marketing, advertising, case intake, and then returns?
Well, just remember how long I've been around, Jordan. I mean, I one time in about the year 2000 convinced, because we had different practices and we did keep up with, obviously, if I got a call and then referred it to a partner, we would keep up with who originated it, who referred, who worked the case, who supervised the case. We would kind of break things down. That didn't really work out really well for PI because really a significant, as part of being an injury attorney, you can have the greatest attorneys in the world, but if you don't get them in the door, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And so because I've been around a while, I remember I grew up in the time where marketing, billboard, you see the billboard attorneys who have a certain, and they still do to a certain extent, frankly, but any kind of advertising had a certain stigma attached to it. And I'll never forget, one day I was driving down our interstate and about 3 billboards out of 6 were the local physicians' practices or hospitals. And I thought, well, that's pretty hypocritical. I mean, they snub their noses at lawyers who just trying to make a living, for marketing. And they're out there and they advertise more than any insurance companies advertise more than anybody.
Yeah.
And so that's when kind of the light bulb went off for me personally. And the other part of it that I really kind of came to, kind of the other light bulb, was clients need good lawyers, need the ability to get to good lawyers. If you're a good lawyer and you do it the right way, and I mean, you're not a corner cutter, you do care about your clients. That's where it all starts. If you give a damn about your clients, truly, if you like people, that helps a lot. But if you owe it to some of these. We don't want those who are just in it for the business and treat clients as widgets, which I've seen, to be the ones who are getting all the clients. It's just not the way. And the people that I generally associate myself with, are not those. In fact, we try to stay away from those type. But I think we owe it to client. And now that's evolved and changed. But I remember in 2000, I talked my partners into doing we just merged. We brought in the tax attorney. We just brought in another law firm in. And so anyway, I was personal injury, and I begged them, and I got them to agree to a 2-page ad in a phone book. This is like 2000. It was $30,000, which was like, a lot of money for them to guess. And I said, I'll track it. We're going to track it. And I think we got 2, maybe 3 phone calls.
Yeah. That's the fun of legal marketing, especially when it's non-diversified.
Yeah.
Get a little pricey pretty quickly.
Oh, the phone book guy would come by every year. He drove a nicer car than I did. He had a nicer watch than I did. He
was enjoying that $30,000 you gave him.
Yeah, I mean, it was Monopoly. They had yellow book pages, and that was it. That was really, other than you saw some TV ads, but not much. Back in the early 2000s, late 90s. So, yeah, as they say, the internet and Al Gore changed everything.
Yeah. And I think your practice is advanced from the days of advertising the back of phone books quite a bit. One thing I found really interesting when I first started working with you guys is you've got 2 separate brands now, actually. You've got Keith Law Group and then NWA Car Accident Attorney. Can you shed some light on why you have 2 separate brands? Are they separate, fully functional individual entities, or are they one and the same? I'll start there.
Well, my marketing director would probably be better to answer that. And then the company she works with, I kind of lean on them for those technical questions. But so I started NWA Car Accident Attorney in probably 2010, maybe. And I just bought the domain because I just thought, first off, I was at a general practice firm, and I thought it was important to have, in addition to all the generic stuff that we had on our website, I mean, it was a cafeteria. You could just pick whatever, you want this. Okay, we got that. It was a lot of options. But I just thought it'd be really important to be focused on just car wrecks. And so NWA Car Accident Attorney pretty much says where we are and what we do. And I think that's critical. I see some ads from young lawyers, and you get across, because right now you're getting across nothing. I have no idea what you do. I have no idea where you are. It's just kind of this generic.
Sure. They're revolutionizing the legal industry by bringing synergy to the law firm space. I'm familiar with it.
There could be simpler ones now, but yeah, they're out there, and I'm like, and there are some injury lawyers, and I'm like, you just mentioned your name. I mean, who gives a damn?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody cares about a name, truly. Ask my buddy Frank Piscitelli in Cleveland. I mean, a name's a name. You just so I just started it, and I had a vision that one day, and I still have this vision. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I just want to put that on the back of buses, transit buses in Northwest Arkansas, so people are driving behind them. That's all they see. It's just, it's just a brand. And then they get to us. I mean, at one point in our old firm, we had, Arkansas criminal defense attorney. We had multiple. Those all just went static. Um, but that one, we've kept, and you have to, it's a freaking garden. You're a plant. You've got a website. You have to nurture it. You have to invest in it. You have to spend time with it. You have to talk to it, put it under a special light. Just kidding. But it
was
is.
a long-term play for you.
It is. It has been. Yeah. And, and that has value too, by the way.
Sure.
One day when I'm done, there's probably a firm out there would say, oh, well, we look at all the traffic this has. That has some value, real value.
Absolutely. All right. It's a little nest egg. And I know because I work with the firm, it does bring in some cases as well. So, I think I can speak to the marketing end. We got brought on, and you had NWA already, and we had 2 websites to work with, and it creates double the opportunity to drive clients. So
double the cost. I mean, double the work. So yeah, it does bring a lot in there. But it also, and honestly, Jordan, we've gone from, do we want 2? Do we want 1? Do we want 2? Do we want 1? And this has been kind of a back and forth. And so it's worked out that having 2 has been great. Our firm has clients, and we market throughout the state of Arkansas where I have my license. And so, but we don't market with NWA throughout the state of Arkansas. NWA is Northwest Arkansas. And so, we do market throughout the state of Arkansas under the Keith Law Group brand. But really, that NWA, I think, for our neck of the woods it's been really helpful.
I just thought you were a big 90s hip hop fan at first.
Well, there we go. Or
familiarize myself with the geography.
New World Order, New World Order. I've been watching the Vince McMahon series, so yeah, New World Order.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about the diversification of your current practice. So you're focused on single event personal injury, but you're also involved in a limited capacity with a couple of mass torts. When did you first decide to get involved in mass torts? And then what triggered you to take that step to focus on both mass torts and PI?
Well, it's more than a couple. I've got just went over our cases this morning with my mass tort case manager. And we're involved in a lot, and we are involved, I said years ago when I gave a presentation on mass torts that mass torts to a fee split is like lightning to a tree. Their mass torts will split a 40% fee into 7 different area or 5 different payments. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. It's different than, your typical one-off case. I got started because I was referring my cases to a guy down the road and didn't realize he was referring them to somebody else down the road and getting a fee off of it. And then the clients were calling me saying, hey, we're not getting much, we're not hearing anything from our clients. And one of the things that my biggest probably point of emphasis in regards to the practice of law and PI in particular is communication. So I'd get these calls, nobody's talking to us, da 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 da. So the next time it came up, and this was early days, it was called Vioxx, I think, was the one that I really got in initially. I just decided I would do it myself and work with these firms, and so I drove to went out to LA at a meeting, and 60 Minutes was there, and it was crazy. I was like, oh my, I'm a kid from Arkansas. It was nuts. I went to Vegas for a meeting, drove over there. I just decided, hey, I need to figure this out because I'm getting these calls and I can do something with it. And so anyway, that's kind of how I got involved. And then because of a medical negligence background, did pay off. I got recruited by some national players, and Mass Tort is a very much a circle of firms. I would say there's an inner circle that's really small, and then there's a little bigger and bigger. But and I got recruited by some national firms, or I recruited myself, and then they were like, "Yeah, he is okay." Because of my background, and they wanted me to get very involved in some of the litigation. So for about 8 to 10 years, I was really focused on the bladder sling hernia mesh, or bladder sling and transvaginal mesh litigation. Went all over the country, took depositions of engineers from Johnson & Johnson to one of my main jobs for several years was prepping other people's clients for their depositions, then taking depositions, et cetera, et cetera. So anywho, that's kind of how I got involved.
Okay, I'm gonna jump back a little bit because you touched on something really important here that we glossed over, which is communication, mass torts. I work with a lot of mass tort attorneys and law firms, and I think all of them do a pretty solid job of communicating with clients. Obviously, depending on your the number of cases you have or clients you have in a given mass tort, that can become kind of difficult. What I noticed with you is you're pretty fantastic at it. So. You're putting out videos on a regular basis for a group of mass tort clients you had about a year ago, keeping them informed. What kind of overhead does that look like to really, put out good communications, and what do you get in return?
Okay, so let's see. Well, it's a multi.
So layers to that question.
All right, let's try that one again. Ask me again that question.
All right, so you stood out as being, even though you are mixed practice PI in mass tort practice, you're probably one of the best practices I know of for client communications in the mass tort space. What kind of overhead does that take? What does it take you on your end to provide those good communications? I kind of gave it up a little bit there, but what are your primary channels for communicating with mass tort clients? And then what's the return? What do you get from the clients in return for good communications, taking the time to actually let them know what's going on?
In regards to the marketing aspects, is that what you're asking me, or
in regards to the actual client retention aspect?
Okay, so one of the things that we really have focused on, and I got involved in the acetaminophen litigation and had calls from probably every state in the country in regards to that particular litigation. It hasn't worked out how we had hoped. But didn't change the fact that I had a lot of clients. When that started, I thought there has to be a better way to communicate with large groups of people. And so I would do a video at least once a month. And I would communicate with them what's going on in the case. Sometimes there was not much going on in the case, but I would do that video every month, and we would see a real good response to it. And so that cost virtually nothing. I think one of the things that you've encouraged me to do, and that I've always been willing to do. I used to do a podcast at the old firm. I've always been willing to do videos, explain. Some people like the camera, some people, don't. Some people, have a face for the camera, some people don't. I don't let that intimidate me. I mean, I like the camera. I don't have a face for it. So I do videos and I just talk to the clients. And so we do them on a number of different things. I've taken that and used it and again, this costs nothing, but I've taken that and used it for our car wreck cases. As our car wrecks go from one phase to another, as you transition from intake, then you go into treatment, to medical record gathering, to negotiation, to settlement, to what litigation, whatever. We have about 5 phases that we have internally. We share a video that I've done, and I explain to the clients, hey, you're moving into the medical records phase. All that means is you're done with your treatment, and now we're gathering your medical records and your billing so we can get ready to discuss with you the value of your case and then negotiate a potential settlement with the insurance company. So we do about 5 or 6 videos, and I send them to people, and I send them to them when I meet with them in person. I'll send them a video about authorizations ahead of time, and it's about 3 or 4 minutes, and they watch that, and it's really helpful to them. From a marketing aspect, I don't know if that's that important or helpful, but I think from just a business standpoint, back to that communication, we have a rule that I think everybody should have in their law firm because it really benefits you. Knock on wood, I've never had an ethics complaint. I've never been sued. When I moved over to the injury space by myself and started increasing my marketing and increasing our numbers, if we didn't communicate with clients, clients would all of a sudden you'd see some frustration from the clients, some pushback on things that there shouldn't be pushback on. And it was because we weren't communicating. And so I took that, realized it, and we have a rule in ours, and I think you should have in your firm. You need to communicate with your clients every 2 weeks. Now, I'm not doing that on mass tort, by the way. That's a little bit different. But car wreck clients, any client other than what we call the mass tort space, you get a phone call from us every 2 weeks. At a minimum, you get a text. How's it going? I like to vary it. And then I'll jump in sometimes when they respond. I'll see what what the communication is. I'm not doing it. My office is doing it. But when it comes time it builds up a level of credibility and trust. And when it comes time when you need to ask them for authority, they trust that you've been paying attention. We went a long way in that answer, and I apologize.
That's good. It's good information right there. I think you touched on a few important things. One of which is, the legal process is complex, confusing, and a lot of the people you're working with have a lot on the line. So they didn't sit through L1 Civ Pro classes for a semester, and they don't understand what's going on. I think your guys' firm does a good job just informing them, hey, this is the step you're in this process. Here's the next step. This is what you can expect. And, especially in the digital age, there's a lot lost. And the, non-personal communications and acquisition and all that for a client in a law firm. So the video that you guys put out, it seems to have really good engagement. It also creates like a personal touch between you, or I assume it does, between you and your client. So they might not get to meet in your office, shake your hand every time, but they can at least talk to you via video.
It's a big difference. In the old days when we signed up clients that came in the office, and I mean old days, I'm talking 6-7 years ago, pre-COVID.
Those are the old days.
Yeah. When we transitioned to this office, one of the things I wanted to do was the ability to sign up clients over the phone, electronically. DocuSign was really starting to come into play, but nobody was doing it. And then COVID happened, and then we were literally just a half a step ahead of everybody else because we were just thinking about it. And then boom, COVID happened, and everybody's doing it. A lot of our clients, they want to. I had a client yesterday. I have in-person authority meetings. At some point, I want to get face-to-face with my client for the trust level issue. That's it. I need to look at them. I need to judge them, evaluate them for if it doesn't settle, well, then we got litigation. And they need to look at me or my team, my lawyers, and say, I trust you and I'm hearing what you're saying. If you just send them a letter and ask them to sign off on authorization, even if you just did it on the phone, I had somebody yesterday wanted to do it on the phone and said, no, I'd rather just wait. They couldn't come in for a week and a half. I'll wait. I want to meet you and I want to see you in person. So I think it is important to get some of that. Sometimes we have to do it by Zoom. I've got a client on the other side of the state. I get it. And we do it by Zoom, but we do it face to face. I think that's important from just a practice standpoint.
Okay. So in terms of client acquisition, I think there's a long way from posting ads in the phone book. How has your strategy evolved over time for how you get new clients, both in the PI space and the mass tort space? I guess they're kind of one and the same for you.
Well, I think we're much more deliberate in regards to the PI space. Not to say our mass tort space. Our mass tort space is I've built up a referral network, throughout the Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, some Missouri area of attorneys, number one. Number two, there's not a lot of mass tort lawyers in the state of Arkansas. Okay, so if you're an Arkansas resident, you want an Arkansas lawyer who has an idea what the heck's going on, can answer a question about an exact tech hip replacement, then generally speaking, you're going to have to fight through maybe some national stuff, but if you want somebody who's in Little Rock, Rogers, Fayetteville, Arkansas, then you're going to end up leading to me. So we put up pages. Your group does an excellent job when I say, hey, we've got this new, which, just this morning, I got a email from my case manager saying we might want to take a look at this. So we'll put up a page and then we'll get cases. In regards to the PI space, we're very, very deliberate in regards to content that's produced. It's not a matter of putting up a page. It's a matter of putting up, as you know, hundreds of pages. It's very, very deliberate, and we want to be organic. That's my goal. I don't want to pay for ad, to be at the top because I've done an ad. I want to be organic, and my marketing director is obsessive about map packs and being in the top 3 from is that a technical term?
That is technical. She knows what she's talking about too.
Map and we want to be in the top 3, whether you're in Rogers or whether you're in, Forest City, Arkansas, or wherever you are. We want to show up, and because we do a good job for those clients, and we're trying to do that, and so those are the ways. And you have to be much more deliberate, and it's work. You have to get reviews. If you don't have buy-in from your staff on reviews, for example, and by the way, how you get buy-in is you reward them for doing their job to follow up with clients to see if they will give you a review. And that's what we do. And we talk about it every Monday. Hey, we got a review last, 2 reviews. Maria got those, she gets a gift card or something. So you've got to be very deliberate. This is the business part. This is what gets in the way of answering interrogatories and requests for production of documents or preparing for a deposition. This is the business aspect of it, but it's critical if you want cases. And we've built up. We're at 3.5 times the number of cases we were when I first, 5 years ago, 4.5 years.
That's pretty good growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't think any new attorneys listening to this are going to go out and buy a phone book ad, but are there any other ad services, marketing strategies that you would call no-goes or generally been a waste of money for you?
Yeah, you get a lot of emails, and you're going to get a lot of emails, and you get a lot of pitches, and you get a lot of, my buddy I mentioned before, Frank Piscitelli up in Cleveland, and my buddy Tom Wagstaff up in Kansas City. And those guys are the most conservative. They scrutinize everything 10 times more than really that I would. I think it's important to do that and be a little skeptical. We are as attorneys. I think as a young attorney, you should, be on guard. I've used different companies from local to, different national companies in regards to our marketing. You need to ask questions, and you need to pay attention, and you need to be able to say, they need to be able to provide to you information, i.e. data. Where are we in the map pack? Where are we on the Google on page? They ought to be able to answer those tough questions, and you ought to be able to be willing to ask those kind of questions. It is an investment. I mean, it truly is an investment. And if you're not keeping up with what that investment is generating you, if you're not following the amount of cases that you're getting in, don't do it. Just don't. Because you need to see, okay, well, last year we had 16 cases in the month of July. This year's we're at 18 or 12. I don't know yet. And I don't know if you do. I don't know if there's a pattern in car wreck cases and getting cases. I don't know if August produces more wrecks because there's more people traveling during summer vacation. I don't know. Maybe, probably. Somebody probably knows.
Yeah. Anecdotally, there's some patterns. I think it depends on where you are, especially for PI. But it does take some time to track those patterns.
And it's different for every firm, and it's different but you sure want to keep those metrics. So my biggest advice is do the basics. Keep, open. How many did we open this month? How many did we close? What are we doing that maybe increases it? We know right away, and that means that right away as our marketing team, company, right away when we're not bringing in cases. And because I'm telling you, our marketing director is on the phone with you saying, hey, we're at 4 cases. We were at 12 last year this month, and you can be patient for 2 to 3 weeks. But as you know, you shouldn't be patient more than that, because there is some kind of explanation if you're well behind where you've traditionally been the last 2 or 3 years and so keep up with the metrics. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think the responsiveness is great too. I think communication that's immediate helps to marketers to know, hey, there's a problem. Like you said, there's always an answer to the problem. It might take some time. There might be patterns. You can't, make new clients appear, but you can respond and find new avenues for those clients to find you in the immediate. So.
And it's fair to say that sometimes, well, maybe the problem's on the intake on your end. Okay, well, let's look at that. Has that intake changed since last month or 2 months ago? I think, you need to give a little time. Or last year, has that changed? Well, if it hasn't, I just don't buy into it. There's some issues with intake. Get it 100%. Some marketing firms will try to say, oh, well, it's in. No, let's look. I've been through it enough now
Yeah.
to know that when we see a sudden change, that means something has changed at Google's level or some level that we need to figure out. And do your work, do your videos, that's good too.
All right. Most important question I have for you is I got a big game for the Royals. What's your prediction?
I think the Royals are going to win. I think they'll win 4-3.
And you think they're going all the way, yeah?
No, but interesting fact, the last 3 times the Royals have been in the playoffs, they've gone to the World Series, winning 2 out of 3. Listen, when you're a Royals fan, it's feast or famine, and it's almost always famine. So when we get a chance to go to the playoffs, we're happy. We're happy. I mean, I hate to say we're happy to be there, but we're happy to be there.
Yeah, I understand. As a Cardinals fan, we got our peak for quite a while, and now we're in our little trough. We're struggling a little bit, so
Yeah,
right there with the Royals.
and
All right.
we really feel for you.
Well, thanks, Sean. I appreciate you joining us. Appreciate your time, and that's all I got for you.